Click the first link in the description for the best Askreddit content. My parents want me, 32M, to move back in with them. I've got a bit of a weird one, just because I can't really find anyone in similar situations online. I went to college in the town I grew up in, but haven't lived there since. I've lived in 3 other towns over the last 10 to 11 years. Currently live about 950 miles away. Every time I come home to visit my parents, it's like I'm making their whole year. They treat me like a prince, make lots of comments about how much they like having me around, make me feel downright guilty about leaving again, etc. I feel like I barely talk just out of a lack of having anything to say, so I'm not really offering much other than my presence. I've been visiting for the last 3 weeks due to COVID working flexibility, which is the longest I've visited since first moving away. They'll say things like, "We've really loved having you here, we thought you might be moving back in, I wish you could visit more often, I don't even want to think about you leaving again," etc. all the time. I know it comes from a good place, but it makes me feel extremely guilty, like I should be here giving their lives meaning, somehow, even though I know that's not my responsibility. I just feel like even when I'm living away, there's part of me that feels like I should be living in my hometown so I can see family and old friends more often, and it torments me, and I think it all stems from these feelings that they pass along. Can anyone relate? I just don't know how to handle the situation at all, and I felt guilt about it for 10 long years now. Too long didn't read. My parents make me feel bad about not living with them even though I'm a 32-year-old adult. If you really want to stay in your town, then you can get your own place independent of your parents. You can also see them regularly without living with them. Kind of late to the party, but both my husband and I used to be those kids that their parents guilted for not seeing. For a shorter version of my husband's story, his parents don't have a social life outside of each other or their kids, with very little interaction with their siblings. His mom bounces back and forth between being a stay-at-home and going out into the workforce for odds and ends jobs, while his dad is an engineer. We have come to the conclusion that his parents are upset because 1, their kids were their entire lives and they were overly involved/protective, and 2, my husband did not fit in with the life plan they had envisioned for him, which we believed consisted of him living nearby and visiting multiple times a week and continuing that tradition with his wife and 2.5 kids. My version is similar to his, minus the life plan part, and adding that in a lot of ways, I was the do-over baby/daughter I never had for my grandparents. When I had to move back in with my grandparents briefly as an adult, I had a curfew. I had to have my friends meet my grandparents and get their approval to hang out with my friends. I had to begin attending church regularly or I would need to find another place to live. I definitely recommend reading books about the fog, fear, obligation, guilt, to help you process some of this. It's worked wonders for my husband and I, even though no one would consider either of our parents abusive. Too long didn't read. Don't move back in with your parents. They'll start treating you like a teenager again. So, do you feel this way a few weeks after the visit? Like, are you pining for this town, friends and parents? Here's the thing, my parents like to pretend my presence gives their lives meaning too. They're certainly not chasing their own happiness the way they could and should, so they throw it on my shoulders. The kindness slowly turns into a guilt trip. If you did live there, in the town, not with them in their home, do you think they'd be capable of boundaries? Your second paragraph I relate to 1000%. I guess if they just had lived themselves I wouldn't feel so much guilt about it, but they don't and don't try to, so their kids, just my sister and me, are their lives. When I'm away it's hard for me to even want to visit because I know I'll immediately be stripped of any feelings of independence. But once I've been back for a week or so I can easily fall into feeling comfortable being around friends and family, which isn't really good for me in terms of trying to carry out an adult life. Could probably visit more than I do, but it's not super easy to do so, as it's either 2 flights, no direct flights, or a 15 to 16 hour drive. My parents are like this. It really touches me. They want me around so much, but I also ignore it when it gets too much, and remind them that I'm an adult and would like to live life on my own terms. I'm appreciative because should anything happen I'll always have a home. When I'm at home I don't feel like a fully functioning adult with my own space. I mean, it's up to you, but visiting parents and living with parents are two very different situations as a grown person. What's love and attention now may feel like smothering when you don't have a departure date. Or, it may be the best thing to you. That's highly subjective. Also don't know what the cultural background is, but a 32-year-old man living with his parents is going to have fewer social and romantic prospects where I'm from because it means less privacy and more interpersonal variables. If that's not the case for you, cool, but consider the larger picture and what moving home would look like if you lived there again and tried to have your own life, not just the warm fuzziness from being a celebrated guest. There's also a large difference between living with your parents, around your parents, near your parents, and far from your parents. Op is far from at 900 plus miles. I would suspect that Op's parents really mean that he should move back around them, but that it's easier for them to say more about the current living situation rather than trying to dictate that he move closer. Even only a few hours away by car is a much different relationship than 900 plus miles away. Boyfriend has stopped being romantic completely. So, my boyfriend M18 has stopped being romantic to me, F18, completely. We got together sometime in early July, but we had started hanging out in May. We hit it off really well and soon we started hanging out every day. It was really nice, as I haven't been in many relationships, not to mention good ones. He was very sweet, complimented me without being prompted or asked, and never talked to me like I was stupid, which is really important to me. It was like he was genuinely interested in me, my family liked him, and it felt like we both genuinely liked each other. The issue of college comes in. As this was during the summer, we could hang out all the time, but we both knew he'd be leaving for school. While this was sad, it was only a few-hour drive back and forth, and it was a drive that I was willing to make to see him, and one he seemed fine in making. 2. I knew things would change, as he would be busy, and I was willing to accept that. It would be unfair of me to demand his attention all the time. Since leaving for school, I began to see things change. They were the expected things. He was stressed out more and busy and overall not as romantic. Which was fine. I expected that and knew there would be days or even weeks where he'd be distant. He still made the effort to talk, which I always appreciated because it let me know he was important. He complimented me when I sent him photos and we still flirted back and forth. I still complimented him and let him know I missed him and was thinking of him. I could see a slight decline in him wanting to flirt and such, so I backed off as to not be overwhelming for him. He caught COVID from school and had to come back home. Obviously we couldn't see each other, as I didn't have a way to quarantine away from family in case he was still contagious. It was probably a few weeks into the school year. It sucked, but I thought we could always see each other another weekend. That hasn't happened. It's been about 2 months and he's completely stopped acting like we're dating. He's been in town a few times and hasn't seen me. I accepted this as him being busy, but it's a little disheartening when I offer to take off work to go up and see him and he ignores my attempts and nothing ever goes through. I still compliment him. I listen to him talk about his hobbies and ask questions about them since I know that's important to him, and he's been stressed out with school, so I try to support him and let him know I'm here for him if he needs anything. But he doesn't compliment me anymore. I've started working out, and while I was already skinny and physically ideal by most standards, I didn't feel attractive before. He's made no supportive comments about it, or comments about it at all, and when I mentioned my workout routine, he says I should push myself more. When I send him photos of myself or outfits, he just goes nice and that's it. Can only think of one time he actually complimented me and it made my whole day better because I hadn't heard him say anything good about me like that in a long time. I had to hear him go on a rant about how the field of school I wanted to go into sucked and how most people don't make it. He says he's too busy to be involved in things important to me when I try to talk about it. I sort of had a bad day and was venting, which I feel bad about doing now as I didn't want to burden him with my problems when he has his own, but what really alarmed me was how he said you could just kill yourself. I understand the context and what he was trying to say. As I said, I have no control over things in my life like when I live or die. But as someone who has tried to kill themselves, it felt like a really jarring thing to say. I'm not sure what I should do. I don't know how to bring up his 180 in behavior, as I don't want to make a big deal if it's just the fact he doesn't have the energy to be romantic. But it's been affecting me negatively, as it really feels like he's not interested at all. I've studied on different love languages to see if maybe ours are just different, and have tried expressing my affection different, but I still see no change, and it makes me feel kind of helpless. Does anyone have any advice on how I can bring this up to him, or if I'm just being too needy and should just wait it out? Sorry for the long read. This was my first post. Too long didn't read. Boyfriend has stopped being romantic or affectionate. I'm worried I'm just being needy or missing his signals, and I'm wondering if I should ask him about it or if I should just wait it out until things get easier for him at school. You could just kill yourself. Oh, fuck this guy. Yeet him into the sun, and if he knows about your past attempt and said this shitty thing anyway, yeet with _extreme prejudice _ edit, and the fact that he said this regarding your talking about your problems _ after he had ranted about his problems, yeet double time. The "you could just kill yourself" comment is a little disheartening to me. It seems like he is losing interest, if he hasn't lost it completely already, and he is pushing you farther and farther away until one day you're just going to feel like strangers. A relationship is not going to work if there isn't consistent effort coming from both sides, despite how busy each side may be. You deserve someone who genuinely cares about you and your passions/dreams, no matter how busy they are with their own life. If he cared, he would. I think you could stand to find someone who never makes you feel like a burden. You deserve it. You don't need to be in a one-sided relationship. The fact that he isn't meeting your needs is a good enough reason to leave. It doesn't really matter if he's stressed or ghosting you, or if he has a new girlfriend. It's clear that he's not a good boyfriend to you, if he's still your boyfriend at all. You have agency here. Use it. Sis, drop him, throw the whole man far, far away. You deserve so much better. If he is coming into town and not seeing you, he isn't your boyfriend. Personally, I'd just ignore him and let him come to you. If he comes, he's yours. If he doesn't, he never was. Focus on your working out and hobbies, don't text him. Let him put in the effort. Best friend, 35F, complains about her selfish husband to me, 28F. Leaving me angry each time. Hi all, first time posting, so apologies if the format is wrong. My dearest friend, 35F, has been in what I personally feel is an abusive relationship for 2 years. She will tell me stories of how he mistreats her, and when I am in their company I can see the way that he neglects her and their child. Over time, I have developed nothing but negative emotions for my best friend's husband, to the point that I feel physically angry each time she vents to me. As I feel like she is not standing up for herself in the relationship, I get quite riled up emotionally each time she tells me situations where I feel she has clearly been taken advantage of. She herself sees this, but as they have a young child she feels that staying in the relationship is the better option. But she has also said that she has tried many times to speak to him about changing his behavior, but is at the point where she finds discussing the matter tiresome and pointless and would just rather put up with it. She will continually share her negative experiences with me, but also has the expectation that I not react negatively, as for her that reinforces the fact that she married the wrong man. I also don't have any intention of adding insult to injury, but I am finding it increasingly difficult to keep my feelings to myself. I once tried to address the matter with her in asking if she could try and leave the husband out of discussions. She mentioned that I was the only person I could vent to and didn't want to have to censor our chats. I feel that she would withdraw if I put any more pressure on her. I want her to have a safe place to talk, but it's also really affecting me badly, as each time it leaves my blood boiling to know my dearest friend is being mistreated, and sometimes I let it slip. Really looking to this wise community for some advice. Thanks in advance, smile. Too long didn't read. Best friend tells me negative issues with her husband, often leaving me quite angry. She wants me to listen without passing any judgment. Want to be supportive but need some advice on how to better handle the situation. She wants a free therapist. You need to be honest about how these stories make you feel. Listen, you know I love you and your child so much, but the way your husband treats you is abusive. And being raised around this abuse will damage your child's views of how a healthy relationship should look and how women should be treated. It is extremely upsetting to listen to story after story of how this man is hurting you and damaging your child. I love you and want you to be happy, but that is not possible while you continue to be in this relationship. More stories of his abuse towards you will not change my mind on this. I am here for you and will help support you in any way I can when you decide to leave. But until then I must insist for my own mental health that you no longer discuss this topic with me. And then stick to it. If she brings it up again, you can say you know how I feel about this. Please change the topic. She needs to know you love her and are there for her, but she is letting her husband's abuse poison her friendship with you. Eventually she will see that she needs to leave. She wants to deny that she married the wrong man and wants you to play along with this fantasy. Why does he do that? Which you can Google a free version of. At the end there is info on how to help. Even if he is not actively hitting her, which is where the main research comes from, it gives valuable insight into the mindset of an abuser. And while the how to help section is slim, it is there. I mean, she doesn't want to censor her chats to you but wants you to censor your reaction, and that's not fair. Tell her that you're a person with your own opinions, and that if she wants a judgment-safe person to speak with, she needs a journal or a therapist. It's not fair for her to pour all of her negative emotions into you and then for her to just expect you to not react negatively or want her to make a change. Thanks guys, I did kind of have to step back and reassess when I realized it was her expectation that I not react. But I did want to get a second opinion as I wasn't sure if I was actually the one overstepping. You're not her emotional dumping ground. She wants you to be. She doesn't want to have a conversation with you, she wants to talk at you. It's my opinion that she's getting stuff from you that she isn't getting in her relationship. Patience, understanding, sympathy, so you may actually be prolonging the abusive marriage by propping her up.